What is up, everybody? It's Revv time, and I'm playing sloppy as ever, maybe because it's a bad hair day, which I have regularly. Here's what we're covering. I did a video last week, and it was basically me covering Thunderstruck using my Generator 120 Mark III, specifically the green channel. That's what I use to get that tone. I'm still in the same dilemma of not having an actual SG. I've got a great sounding Les Paul. One of these days I would love to round up a really good SG. This is inspiring me even more so to try and acquire one at some point. But this guitar sounds great. We're going to stick to this guitar. And normally what I will do when I follow up a video like that is I'll show you, in the last video, if you want to reference it, I basically said, here's quickly how I got that tone using the green channel of the Generator 120. In this case, what I'm wanting to do is actually show you how to get that tone using the D20, which is an amp I really dig. Now, the D20 is, it's a 6V6 20-watt amplifier. It's really meant to be a great sounding pedal platform amp, although it can get some really nice kind of medium gain crunch tones. It's really designed to sound awesome with pedals and really any pedal. But in this case, I'm going to show you how I'm arriving at this tone using my favorite of the three Revv pedals, and that's the G2. That's what you're hearing right now. And you can see how I have it dialed. It's pretty tame, really. I'm not running a ton of gain. I've got the drive modes off. You can see that I've got the EQ almost matched. In other words, it's just below 12 o'clock across the board. I might turn the treble down, bass down, maybe the mids up just a little. Maybe just a little more gain. With that amount of gain, maybe just treb up and bass down a little bit. So let's shut the pedal off for reference so we can hear the D20. Now, the D20 is dialed relatively clean. In other words, if I play this, I'm hitting it with a guitar that's got fairly hot humbuckers in it. If I play it softly, it won't break up at all. If I dig in, it'll break up just a little bit. Now, if I was demoing a pedal, like on my own channel, or even on this channel, if I was demoing a pedal-specific thing, I would make sure the amp was really dead clean so that the pedal would have to do all the work. In this case, I'm not really going for that. I just want to do a combination of the G2 and the D20 together to arrive at a specific tone. So in this case, I might want to push the amp a little bit more, so I'm going to turn up the volume on the Revv G2. Now there's a little more kind of ampy push there without being a ridiculous amount above unity from where the amp was. So if I back off, it cleans up. But if I dig in, so to me, that's really close to that cool kind of classic AC/DC rock tone. Now, here's the question. Can I arrive at that sound without the G2 using just the D20? Let's see. Now, the D20 has a pull boost. If I pull that control out, we've already got not only more gain, but it also spreads out the whole, it kind of makes everything broadband with the amp. You've got more highs and lows. Now what I want to do is I want a little more gain. I'm going to turn down the overall output, hopefully so I don't overdrive the input to my Pro Tools rig, because we are running direct off the amp using the embedded torpedo IRs. Okay, so I'm going to start turning up the gain. Okay, that's the amount of gain I want, but what I'm noticing is there's too much low end. So I'm going to turn the bass down, and I find this to be very typical on the majority of tube amps. I don't want to say all of them, but in my opinion, as you turn up gain, you get a little bit too much low end. So you either use, some manufacturers will use like a tight switch or something that cuts low end as you turn up the gain so it still sounds tight. That's much tighter and focused than if I left it where it was. It sounds big, but it's a little too pillowy in the low end. I want it to tighten up. And normally what I'll do, and it doesn't matter what amp, because I've got a bunch of really great amps divided by 13s. I've got Friedmans. I've got different Revv amps. I've got Sur amps. For the most part, I have to turn down the bass control if I'm gonna crank up the gain on the amp. So right there's about right. I want a little more gain, so I'm gonna turn the gain up with a little more treble. Seems like it still needs a little more top end. Gonna add some more treble. So this is just kind of me honestly messing around in real time. That's with the gain all the way up now. That's pretty close to, once again, that kind of rock and roll AC/DC thing. But it'll still totally clean up. Now, if I wanted to push that a little bit more, what I could do is turn down, I'll shut the bass off, maybe set the gain down on the G2. Now we're not using the G2 as the overdrive pedal, we're using it as a push box. And I'll dial as I go. So now I've got my crunch tone and then my solo tone. So it's got more of kind of a mid bump to it, a little more obviously gain and push. I could go to maybe the blue mode. A little more gain, a little more top end. Let's go to the red mode. I think I like it in the middle, and I'll just add some more gain. So there you go. I went from the D20 dialed relatively clean, using the G2 to get the crunch mode, to using the D20 as my crunch sound, and then using the G2 to get me my solo tones that aren't necessarily high gain or modern. It's just more pushed and more gain in a more kind of just straight ahead rock and roll tone. So as always, I really appreciate you guys watching. Please chime in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this combination. Let me know if you've got this type of rig, whether it doesn't matter if it's a D20 or not, but if you run a pedal platform amp, how do you dial it? What do you use for your crunch tones? What do you use as your pushed or solo tones? I always want to hear from you guys, because you all have really good ears. You're all guitar players, so I would love to hear what you guys are up to as well. So until then, we will see you next time.